CJ, we on the air? I can't hear you now. Jesus Christ, it was too loud. My ears were exploding. It's not a good day.
The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's, what a Monday in the rib. So, we got so many things to deal with. It's incredible. Well, it's the same person, but so many things to deal with.
Chip,
so,
do you have your mic on?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not hearing you that well.
Well, maybe I turned the volume down over there because when I came in, my ears were exploding. Is that volume over on the wall?
No, that has nothing to do with it. Okay, it's fine.
Okay. Okay, well, we've got, obviously, we know that we're national, international, space news. People on the planet Venus are listening and everything else, and it's Monday in the Riv. And all hell is broken loose, obviously.
Yep, sorry we weren't here on Friday, but obviously...
yeah, obviously.
Obviously, what was going on was a little more important than our show. Although I was seriously debating coming in and co-anchoring with Keith on this. It would have been interesting. But just to do this catch-up a little bit, obviously the city knows our mayor, Jasiel Correia, and I don't like saying our mayor, but the mayor of the city of Fall River has been arrested again. Again, only this time for political corruption. This time he can't say they didn't arrest me because of my job. This had nothing to do with my job.
Actually, it had everything to do with his job.
And that's the problem.
And the way he executed it. And, you know, we have an article in a week of careers efforts underway. So Steve Camara, which I feel is pretty ironic since he's been one of the mayor's
staunch supporters, and he wants to limit it because I think he wants more of a, city manager. But, I hate to say this. No, I don't, actually. I don't believe it. I'm sorry. I can't be that disingenuous. Fall River can't do anything right. We couldn't even run an e-charter right. Exactly.
We'd end up screwing up an e-charter, even with the city manager. We'd end up politicizing a city manager's position.
Well, they already want to because they want to create a mayor and a deputy mayor.
Yeah, and a deputy mayor and everything else. And look, it's all politics. And the bottom line is, we should have a city manager who's responsible only for the financial aspects of the city, not answerable to the council and the people. And then it's not politics. He's not running on his, I put in a pothole. He's there to be the bean counter, and that's the way they do it in Worcester. But the fact is, we'll screw everything up because, again, we're going to go to this letter. But I find the irony of Steve Camara, the guy who blocked everything to do with the mayor and supported virtually everything to do with the mayor because, again, I understand that this is a big thing on his agenda. So now it's the hell with the mayor. I got an opening to try to do it. But the reality is, and I know you and I have been advocating an e-charter since we've been on the air.
Right.
So that goes back about 7 years. This isn't something we just knee-jerk reaction to the mayor. I feel it's far more efficient because it's less political. But there's nothing you can do in this city. They can't convince me that everything we do, we'll screw up a charter. We'll end up with deputies and everything else. But to show you, because, you're going to say, well, no. To show you how bad it is, we have an article from Howie Carr.
I love that article.
About this city. You want to read it, CJ?
No, I'll let you read it.
Okay. This isn't, you guys can go on and read it. I think there's links. There's probably links all over.
There's links all over Facebook and everywhere else for it.
And I love the title. Amateur hour in Fall River. And I'm going to read not the entire article. There's a couple of things where Howie goes off on our state legislature, which is corrupt and greedy and useless. All they know how to do is pass stuff to make things more political and more bureaucratic. But let's just get to this letter, because this is good. And well, Carr's pretty good. Fall River Mayor Jasiel Correia could be a case study in how not to run a shakedown conspiracy. This is Massachusetts. Greed and stupidity are not exactly unknown among our elected officials. But according to Friday's federal indictment, this kid mayor, he's 27, is violating all the accepted local rules for stealing. But then it's Fall River. Now, I want you to listen to this. This is because everybody, and you listen to the council, and you listen to Jasiel and how great he's doing for Fall River, and you listen to all these people and say how wonderful it is, rather than say this place is a mess, we have to fix it, because they have to be politicians. This is the perspective. But then it's Fall River, the third world, without the palm trees or the charm. Third world country. But even by third world standards, with a hesitation, which means this is even amazing by third world standards. In addition to the cash, up to $600,000, Correia is accused of grabbing mortgage discharges, 12 to 15 pounds of pot, a percentage of the city's projected marijuana revenues, and at least one $10,000 Rolex Batman watch. In other words, the headline for this column should be Batman was robbing. I thought it was pretty good. Nice turn of the phrase. Brazen was how Correia was described by U.S. Attorney Andrew Lelling, and that's an understatement. They say pigs get fed, but hogs get slaughtered. Correia is a hog. Mistakes? He's made a few. First of all, he had at least 2 bagmen, whom the feds called middlemen. The good thing about a bagman is, if he gets lugged, you can always claim he was freelancing, using your name without your knowledge. But even though the kid mayor is alleged to have at least 2 bagmen, Correia was making some of the cash pickups himself in his city vehicle. Dumb. And here's what's even dumber. He's accused of taking his chief of staff with him for one payoff. In other words, in court, it won't be just a mayor's word against the guy he's shaking down, a wannabe weed mogul. It's the testimony of both the victim and the hack aide. Next, let's talk about that chief of staff. Her name is Genevieve Andrade, and she was making $78,780 a year plus a $10,000, quote, snow stipend, unquote, whatever that is. But the mayor was reportedly shaking her down, grabbing half of her salary. Half. Page 32 of the indictment includes several direct quotes from the bidder Andrade, including her mention of the mayor's safe with, quote, hundreds of thousands, unquote, of dollars, cash, and, quote, lots of sleazy things the mayor has going on, unquote. And to the ganja gangster, this is a quote from her. You want to hear something even more bleeped? You know what the bleep is? Upped. I have to give Correia half my salary, unquote. There's usually a reason the feds put such statements in quotes. They have them on tape. How is it possible to extort this much graft in one destitute city? So all they say about Fall River over here and how much they're doing and how well they're doing, and we continue to give you the statistics about how poor people are in Fall River. This is what they know. They know. Everybody else in the world, except our politicians who are trying to con you, know that this city is destitute. And then he goes on, because the legislature is enabling it, blah, blah, blah. And he goes about why drug pins can't use banks, so the way that the system is broken. And then it goes on. Again, he kind of goes into the regulatory system. Then we get back to Jasiel. The reason the mayor, and only the mayor, decides on who gets a license is because dealers wanted one-stop shopping. Why pay off everybody at City Hall if they can just duke the mayor? Over the long haul, it's much cheaper than bribing the city council, the health inspectors, and the community advocates. Lenny is just following the Fed's political corruption playbook. Across the country, most political bribes involve mayors, think Baltimore, or legislative leaders, think Boston and Albany, which, in case you don't know, it's the capital of New York. By the way, one of Correia's bagmen was himself, quote, an illegal marijuana dealer prior to its legalization in Massachusetts, unquote. The indictment states, that's what the indictment states, I guess the boy mayor wanted someone who understood the racket, I mean business. Then there's the mayor's, quote, current girlfriend, unquote, as the indictment describes her. Traditionally, a pal's gal pal should be low profile, but not current girlfriend. Correia gave her brother not one, but 2 marijuana licenses. And she was handed not just a matching Batman watch, but also a $10,000 down payment for her 2015 Mercedes G550, says the indictment. After one of the payoffs, the mayor's chief of staff told a marijuana dealer, quote, you're in the family now, unquote. Crime family, that is. There's a preliminary election for mayor in a couple of weeks in Fall River. Correia's on the ballot. He's already been reelected once since his initial indictment on separate charges alleging fraud pertaining to a private business he ran, the Snow Owl app. We'll soon know if Fall River is ready for reform. Good article, but you know, I know, CJ, you and I were discussing the lieutenant governor of Rhode Island was crucifying the voters of Fall River for re-electing.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
For re-electing, and now Howie Carr says he's re-elected. We're getting a bad rap. I think you should get a hold of 12 at the lieutenant governor's office. I'll email him if I have to. Tell him that we did not re-elect him. He got elected by a plurality. It's if you want to say what caused his re-election, it was that pathetic charter.
Right.
Now, I understand they're going to say the people voted for the charter, but then again, the people who put together the charter and sold that charter, and it just goes to show how easy it is to sell a bill of goods to people.
Especially in Fall River. Yep,
You're right.
In Fall River.
And this is the thing. But look, they keep saying we re-elected him. 65% of the people voted against him in that recall election. He shouldn't have been on the ballot in the first place. The recall process should have been much different, and we've said that ad nauseum. But, you know, and let me preface this by saying everybody's innocent until proven guilty. But let's have a modicum of logic. Snow Owl, this, he was going to give the money back, blah, blah, blah. Let's be realistic.
Well, it's no wonder he could give the money back.
Of course, yeah. Well, yeah, but then again, he really didn't want to give the money. He kept it in escrow. Then when they demanded, the feds wanted to handle the money, he said no, because then he'd have to get into my safe with the $600 grand in
Exactly.
But look, let's look at this objectively. He had 3 other co-conspirators that were indicted.
Hildegard Camara, David Hebert, and Tony Costa.
Yeah.
All 3 have entered into agreements.
And actually, also indicted was his chief of staff.
Right, Jen Andre.
She's a conspirator, and she's also a victim of him. So, you know, I know that the zombies are saying he's been framed. This is all political. This is this. This is that. Listen, you know, you better take a Valium and look at the thing realistically. 3 of the co-conspirators, was actually 4 when you count Jen, but we have to put her in a special category because she's one of the few that's a victim and a co-conspirator, which begs the question, how would you conspire with somebody who's screwing you? He's taking half your damn salary.
And Jen Andrade will be in front of the judge on September 16th. So that's not too far away.
So let's look at this objectively. You've got, let's count Jen in too, because she is going to be in front of the judge. So even though she's not just a co-conspirator, she's a co-conspirator and a victim, which, like I said, begs the question, why would you conspire to do what's being done to you if you're not happy what's being done to you, which is you know,
She must have gotten something out of it.
extort. Yeah, well, but all 4 of those people have lawyers.
Right. Different lawyers, as a matter of fact.
All different lawyers.
All from Boston.
All from Boston. And those lawyers can make a lot of money dragging through trial.
Right.
But those lawyers, unlike Jasiel's lawyer, who knows that, you know, he's got that money stashed in a safe, so he'll probably get paid. Those lawyers actually gave their clients pretty good advice. You got to remember, those guys are lawyers who specialize in this type of thing. They looked at the evidence. They looked at the case. And I don't care what his lawyer says. 4 other lawyers told their people, you better make a deal.
And they made a deal before he was even arrested.
They made a deal before he even had the cuffs on. That's right. Except for Jen, because Jen, I don't believe, she's like those rich people who don't want to serve a month in jail because they're too good. I don't think she can stand the prospect of jail. She had a panic attack at City Hall the first time he was arrested. They thought she was having a heart. They had to cart her out. Imagine if
CPH, baby.
Imagine if they handcuff her and say you're going to the federal pen for 5 years. I mean, that'll be the end.
CPH.
So she didn't take a plea. So she's going to go to court. But the fact is that I'm sure that her lawyer wanted her to plead out. So let's look at this realistically. The people who were part of this with you, the people who are going to directly testify against you, took a deal. They pleaded guilty. That means they got that much evidence to convict them. So now you take all the evidence that they have on them, which also is evidence against you, then you add their testimony to corroborate all that evidence, to again corroborate it and buttress that argument. You really believe that this is all political? This is a setup? I mean, come on, wake up and smell the coffee. But you know, the sad part about this is what it does to our city. I heard that, what's his name? The Hetzler that's in charge of the president of the industrial park there, a part of that industrial park board, was just...
Carl Hetzler.
Carl Hetzler, that's right, Carl. Made a blistering statement about what's happening, and people calling him from all over, in the we said with the first one it should be stepping down, but after this, I mean, look at what we're called. Third world. Even by third world standards, we're at the low end of the food chain. Destitute city. Dummies. You re-elected them. I mean, damn, people. You wonder why Fall River can't move forward? Nobody. This city is like a combination of bubonic plague, cholera, and Triple E. Nobody wants to get within 30 miles of it, because they look at this guy and what he's been charged with, and then they look at the people and say, these people elected him and re-elected him. And like I said, it's not accurate. It was the flaw in the charter that got him re-elected. They forget that the majority of people voted against him, but there are still zombies out there saying that this is all manufactured, that the Fed spent 3 years and it's still continuing to investigate and got thousands of pages of evidence, corroborative, buttressing evidence from co-conspirators. But everybody's making this up.
Well, the thing that gets me is, and you know, look at this. He was arrested on Friday. They upped his bail to $250,000, and this time they want cash down.
Oh, they didn't ask for one of the Rolexes?
They want $25,000 cash surety. But they're giving him until Tuesday to bring it to the courthouse. If it was you or I who were arrested, would we get till Tuesday to bring it to the courthouse? No. So again, we see the special rules for people. And I don't think that's actually fair. Because, you know, what would happen is if they kept him there until he produced the $25,000, he'd have to give somebody the combination to the safe, and they might rip off all his money.
That's exactly right. But let's look at the...
And let's be sure that $25,000, if the U.S. attorney was smart, he would ask for where that money came from and a paper trail on it. Because you can't benefit from your ill-gotten gains.
You're right. But look at the fallout. And somebody texted me this morning. I guess they wanted me to mention it. You and I had a discussion because we had some people calling because I believe during the press conference somebody mentioned a John Lynch.
Yeah, and it wasn't our fire chief.
And then people began to think it was the fire chief. And we checked into it, and it's a contractor from Boston, I believe.
Correct.
I believe when he was going over the list of the people who were involved in this, he was going over contractors and things like that. And obviously, look, we can't be 100% sure, obviously, but you're pretty well 99.9% sure because, at least in my estimation, if it was the fire chief or any other high-ranking city official, they would have prefaced it with his title.
They would have.
Because let's face it, every time just a regular firefighter or a police officer or a school teacher gets arrested, it's not John Lynch gets arrested, it's Fire Chief John Lynch or firefighter this or police or school teacher this. So for all of you people who are trying to create this little offshoot drama, forget it. It's not that John Lynch.
But people can think that way because the mayor's accused of getting permits and getting the water department involved. So who in the water department did this? Was it Terry Sullivan? Is that why he's retiring?
Maybe.
Who knows? I mean,
yeah, it'll play out. But look at the collateral damage, because that's one of the problems with these. I've always been opposed to contract department heads, because if you want to keep your job, you got to sell your principles. They call you up and say, "I want this permit." Oh, by the way, you're going to lose your $150,000, $180,000 a year job if you don't give me this permit. Well, some people would say, no, tuck it. But the difference was, in the old days, when you had civil service, and you can remove civil service heads, there is a process, sections 41 through 45 of the civil service regulations, but you have to have real reasons, not political reasons. You have to be. But the thing is that now you have these people, you pick up the phone and they turn their head if they want to keep their job. I wouldn't, but that's the reason I've always been opposed. So this is just, it is catastrophic. I mean, just when you think the city couldn't get any worse, we couldn't get another black eye, they're going to have like eye transplants in our heads so we can have like 500 eyes with 500 black eyes, because it's just crazy.
If you remember, I mean, I don't know if you read the Weekend Flush yet or not, but in the Weekend Flush, I mentioned that all city boards and commissions should be stripped of their authority until the new mayor takes office. I mean, especially things like the licensing board, the redevelopment authority. Look at what they did for for the mayor's girlfriend. Her family got the lease on the city pier in violation of the agreement with the EPA. They got restaurant licenses on Purchase Street. They got Purchase Street done for them. They've gotten they got 2 marijuana licenses. Tell me that there's not something wrong with this picture.
Like I said, this city is the capital of corruption, and you got David Hebert, who pleaded.
That's right.
Guilty. Didn't his wife get liquor licenses?
Yes, she's holding a liquor license.
Holding a liquor license and not even using it. So all these things, these boards, and they're all, all of them have to be looked at with tremendous amounts of scrutiny, obviously.
And the big problem is that these boards and commissions are appointed by the mayor. Again, we're at a position where they're all appointed by the mayor. Type e-charter or a charter like Worcester has, and just out of clear proof, I sent the Worcester charter to the Charter Commission to review. Did they review it? I don't know. But they didn't want to talk about it because Mike Mioza, who was the chair, and Chris Botley, who was the vice chair, didn't want to go that way. And the rest of the charter commissioners, except for Dan Robillard, fell in line with them. It was always, a unanimous vote -1. Danny Robillard was always a nay vote because he knew it was all bull. And this was a crock. That entire charter was a crock. We said it beforehand. We said it before the election. They still voted for it, and now they're paying for it. And that's the way it is.
Absolutely. But like I said, look at the damage this city. It's just, and then they say we got to try to entice people to come here, people who have real jobs, to buy real houses and pay taxes and contribute to our economy. How can we do this when people from all over the country? My son's getting inquiries from half his old college classmates that live in other states saying, what the hell is going on in that place that you lived in? And it's crime, drugs, corruption. Would you want to move from Braintree or Newton or Wellesley down to Fall River? I don't care if you got the house for $3.
And to top it all off, which really makes me laugh, they've already done a study on the fares for the commuter rail from Fall River to Boston.
Yeah.
And the average Fall Riverite couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
Could not afford it. It's going to cost the same to go from Worcester to Boston as it's going to go from Fall River to Boston. That's a problem.
Well, but that was intentional. They don't want anybody from Fall River going to Boston. They're going to try to price them out of the market. It's like when you have a restaurant and it's so high priced it keeps the riffraff out.
Oh, you mean like 110 Grill?
Yeah. So, but I mean, it's as somebody who's lived here his whole life except for his military time, and it's like, it's sad because I remember when Fall River wasn't, it was never Newton, but it was a place where we did have a hard-working workforce, people who worked in the mills and worked and earned their pay and lived the American dream. Their parents came over from a country, legally, I may add, and they worked, and their children did better than them, and their grandchildren will do better than their children. And that's what. Fall River was a place where we had stowers. We had an economy. Not the greatest economy, but we had an economy. And, when you see things like this, we got enough going against us without, and then to get up there and say, all I've ever done for Fall River is good. Well, I guess you're not doing that good because we were called third world, destitute, and a few other choices.
Hey, at least they didn't call us prostitutes.
Give them some time. But it's just, and then they're going to use it for political things. Oh, let's go to a so that's the knee-jerk reaction. We have a shooting, take away everybody's guns. Like criminals aren't going to get illegal guns. It's just going to create another market. So now Steve's jumping back on. They shot him down with his Type E charter. Now he's going to use this as a political springboard to, that'll cure it. No, because remember where we're going to try to make this work, in Fall River, and it won't work until they get people like you out.
Well, this conversation obviously hasn't ended. I'm sure there'll be more. I mean, as more and more stories come out, and we'll bring them to you. So
that's right.
Thanks for watching today, and I'm sorry about Friday, but the station
there was
wanted
nothing we could do. We got preempted at the last minute. So.
And you can blame the mayor for that.
And remember, we can't wait till Wednesday to see what else happens.
Exactly. Okay. Have a great day, everybody. See you on Wednesday.
Take care.